So once again, apologies for this AI illustration. What I was trying to show was the rows of hope growing out of the waste of money that is caused by the damp proofing industry. Now, in this property, it was a maisonette, a Victorian lower ground floor and first floor maisonette. There's an open plan kitchen. There's a bathroom on the first floor with a defective fan in it. And now I'm going to show you, so subject to the sale has completed. The buyer had a Kenwood survey. Kenwood is the largest damp proofing company in London, or at least it's the one that is seen most by myself and other independent damp proofers. They are recommending £7,500 worth of work. Now, the interesting thing and really important element of this is that they say in their report that they were sent out to look for evidence of rising damp. And then they say the inspection revealed evidence of dampness. They don't say rising dampness, they say dampness. And then they go on to say that they think, in their opinion, the defect is due to lack of damp proof course. Well, apart from the fact that damp proof course was going to make no difference to this property, and also that this particular property had been damp proofed against rising damp in the past, but they failed to mention that. Apart from that, they show no evidence of that there is a lack of a damp proof course. So they go on to say, and also within their survey, they mentioned that there's defective rainwater goods, but that they can't, they are not in a position to fix those. So they're positioned to fix damp proofing, rising damp, but not rainwater goods, defective rainwater goods, which suggests that they're not taking a holistic approach. Although I credit where credit's due, they do at least say that they found rainwater goods. Now, if you look in the property, you see here, there's that ridge. That ridge is caused by past damp proofing treatment. And the reason you get the ridge is because the original plaster would have been replaced with damp proofer's slurry, and between the original plaster and the slurry, you typically get a ridge, and that's where you get the worst of the damp, because primarily the damp in these properties is caused by condensation. As Kenwood says, there is evidence of some penetrating damp. So there's water that's overflowing the gutter. Some of the gutters are blocked, and there's the plants that are growing up there indicates that there's water that overflowing that gutter, and this one is to the rear, and those should be fixed, but those are not the primary cause of dampness in the property. If they were, then you would expect to see brown staining on the inside, which we're not seeing. The other thing to mention is that the floor has been replaced. It's a solid floor, which is normally an indication of past rot. So I'm using there's the
damp proofing
treatment line.
What's happening is the condensation is forming on the cold wall floor, should I say.
The problem with solid floors. This is a standard protrimeter survey master in radio frequency mode, which is my preferred mode.
It's dry now, but it's obviously been damp, and this is using surface. That's what a lot of damp surveyors or surveyors will use, is these the conductors, but they don't work as well, in my opinion. It only tells you the surface, not what's happening deep inside.
You can see the salts, a sign of past condensation. And there's a little bit of mold there, which obviously is a sign of excess vapor. That's the only cause of mold.
Shaft, and then that's the mold there.
Yeah, well, I guess. So you can see corrosion on that pipe there.
But I certainly think you're onto something, Simon, because it's just people can get their head around so much of it, but you need someone to give you a bit of confidence that says,
So those are the data
you're,
loggers, and we're using those to measure humidity
you're not,
over time.
Doing the right thing.
yeah, you're not constantly.
Well, so what I say to people is try and keep the vapour levels as measured by dew point. I think it was over there actually originally.
Okay, yeah.
Keep the vapour levels below the outside temperature for at least 3 months and measure it with the sensors because they have 3 months worth of data in them.
Yes.
And look at external temperature, and when I've got the website going, you'll be able to, it will automatically have the external temperature for London initially, and then I'm going to try and cover the whole of the UK.
Yeah.
And if you've got 3 months and you've still got a damp problem, then maybe you've got other things.
Yeah.
But
at the very least, it should be heading in the right direction, shouldn't it?
Exactly. But if you've got penetrating damp, you're going to have a brown stain. Most leaks will end up with a brown stain, and hygroscopic salts won't, and that's the one that won't disappear, and that's the one that won't be necessarily on the cold wall. It'll be by a chimney breast. The other thing is you have to be aware of when it's had damp proofing treatment, you've got this sort of scar on the wall, and that will hide that'll obscure some of the damp.
Yeah.
But it won't necessarily get rid of, well, you won't get rid of it.
But sometimes, again, I don't know how true this is, but I'm sure I read that sometimes the salts are because it was previously an open fire and you've got residues from
So
contaminated.
those would be hygroscopic salts,
Yes.
but these salts here that are blistering through, those are calcium sulfate from building material, mortar.
See, I find it
So this is the anemometer, and we're just going to have a look at the speed. Just slightly.
10 is average in the UK. It should be 15.
If we can improve that. The fan only lasted a few minutes, so we'll adjust that, and I'll clean it out, see whether we can improve the speed. This alone, increasing the overrun on fans, would probably put a majority of damp proofers out of business. It's the other thing, how dirty these fans get, and they're actually quite easy to clean. That will increase its through flow. No, I just have to take it off.
Okay.
I've done a lot of clearing up.
Yeah, no
There's
problem. I'm happy
probably-
to do that. Yeah.
Certainly quieter. Oh, it's always. Well, there you go. It's gone from 10 to 19 litres per second. So there you go. And it's now running for half an hour. So that'll probably solve a lot of your problems. This is the fan downstairs. It's not running particularly fast, but it isn't coping with showers, but it is for drying clothes. So the trick would be just to keep it running with the lights on. Yeah, it looks like condensation streaks here. And that will be because of the entrance and it's colder here. So in winter, if I use the thermo imaging camera, you'll see a lot of heat loss there. And there is an argument for, and up there as well. There's an argument for insulating it, but that's not the primary cause, but it can reduce the risk. So you can see the thermal image there. But if I look there, at the moment it's actually warm in that zone, but in winter that zone would be cold. The reason why is the front door is set back to about here, and that's why you're getting the condensation here, because it's a cold. This is actually external, like the front bay, and you're probably getting it on the front bay as well. So I'll go downstairs with this, but it doesn't highlight much this time of year. I've got it on automatic rather than manual setting, but so some of the things that look hot at the moment would be cold in winter. Oh, because you're getting the sun over there. I mean, if you want to do, if you're doing extensive insulation, it is worth thinking about
buying or hiring one of these, they're relatively inexpensive, few £100s, but when you're talking about insulation,
Yes.
it's worth doing it. But you want to have a 10-degree difference between inside and outside. They don't tell you where there's damp,
No.
contrary to what a lot of people will
Tell
say.
you where it's cold.
It tells you where it's cold, which could be because it's damp.
Yeah.
But we were talking about different forms of vapor permeable insulation. So here's Space Therm, and it's essentially a type of plasterboard with really thick insulation, but it's vapor permeable. High U value rather than thick. Move in and out. It's less of an issue here because you have a solid floor, so you don't have to worry too much about water condensing within the building material and falling onto the floor. It might damage the skirting board, but they can just be replaced. It's not a structural issue. Here's another one. This is called thermal lining paper. I think it's Wool Rock makes it, or anyway, there are different ones. This can go on there. I use it at my home, but I'm not a huge fan of it anymore. So yeah. We were talking also about so the risks in cupboards. So this is on the external wall, and obviously the main thing is to reduce the vapor levels, and then you remove the risk. But you could put some insulation and you can get some relatively inexpensive insulation like wood fibre that you would have for underlay underneath a typical floor, and it won't cost much money at all, and it will give you insulation. Or you can use this actually is really good for cupboards, this thermal lining paper. Yes, because you're not looking at it. The thing I don't like about it is that you can sort of see, but it creases. It doesn't look like a nice plastered wall, whereas this one you put plaster on top of it, and it will look just like dry lining.
The height of the sill.
Yeah, you just need to make sure there are no cracks, gaps, that you don't have absorbent paint covering, impermeable render, things like that should be covered. You want to rake them out, which just means slightly increasing the gap so that you can put in an acrylic based caulk to cover that, and any cracks and gaps. But I didn't see examples of penetrating damp, so that doesn't look great, but it may not be causing a problem. Otherwise, so long as the drainage is working well, it shouldn't be a problem. And then if we look up at the top, so we were talking before coming in, but you can see.
Are these likely to be the salts as well, or is that just being
No, I
filled
think
or something?
it's just poorly filled,
Patched up.
But you see the salts here. The
Yeah.
reason you're getting salts here is because you've got the modern day mortar, the pointing, which has got more calcium sulfate salts in it than the old. So often they would use lime anyway, but you're also getting the rust here, so that indicates that water is pouring into this area. As I was looking up, I could see the salts all the way up to the top, suggests that at some stage it's been blocked. It may still be blocked, and it may be partially blocked. I'll see things like tennis balls blocking them. You just want to have a look during a rainstorm.
See where it was.
And because there's a floor above it, it's easy to access and just clean this out, check it every so often. And likewise, there's a bit of a streak down there. That's probably just an old drip. But unfortunately, because they're historic buildings, this could have happened many years ago and you wouldn't know the difference. Yeah. So it doesn't mean it's ongoing. So we're talking about potential for standing water here. So there is a gap there, and I would fill that with a fillet of cement all the way along, just to reduce the chance of water getting in through there. But I didn't see water passing through, but it may be that it's been blocked by past damp proofing treatment. So you might as well do that anyway, because what happens is a damp brick loses heat more rapidly than a dry brick, and so you get areas of heat loss, which increases the amount of condensation that you get. So the condensation is the issue, the primary issue, but a secondary issue is the penetrating damp. But I would say here there is a bit of green
there, which suggests maybe a little bit of ponding. It's difficult to tell. And you've got the plant up there, so you may get some water overflowing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's away from the downpipe, so it's not going to be too bad. So in this,
It's not discoloration here. Is that anything to do with it? I think there's a suggestion that might be.
yeah, well,